Oh, welcome back to Meathead Movie Review, guys. I know it's been quite a while since I've done a Meathead movie review. I honestly haven't been really seeing any movies that are worth a review, but I just saw. Oh, sorry. I was listening. My dog just made a noise. Anyways, I just saw a brand new movie. Hopefully, it's still out in theaters by the time I post this video, but the movie was called Obsession. Post production, Evan, do something cool. But I just got finished seeing Obsession. Well, not just, I saw it the other day. But holy crap. I glazed the hell out of Project Hail Mary, and I still think it is the best film I've ever seen. But for this specific genre, that being the horror genre, I do think Obsession is like tip, like creme liqueur. I don't know. Cream of the crop. There it is. That's the word. That's the little phrase. But I've never first of all, I've never been interested in the horror genre. I've always been kind of a scaredy cat, and get nightmares, and get paranoid relatively easily. I don't know, whatever. But you know, within recent years, I've been a little bit better at watching them and not, getting so scared afterwards. But last year, I really thought Weapons was like one of the best films I had ever seen last year. And my goodness, it looks like the horror genre is either one, growing on me, or two, evolving. And I think it's just a mixture of the both of the two. And I think, I can't remember the director's name, insert director's name, picture, whatever here. But if I'm not mistaken, this is his first film ever. And if that's the case, my goodness, hats off to you, good sir. But he executed this film very well. And I think there's something about comedy writers writing genuinely like scary movies. I think that's just like gotta be the go-to. Like we have what is it, Jordan Peele making scary movies, or the horror genre, the suspenseful genre of movies, and like just making them so well. And now we have this young guy who came from comedy skits writing a well thought out horror movie that isn't just gore for gore's sake. It's like intentional gore, and there is little bits of comedy mixed in there too, so you get a little bit of like a break from just being like all the time. You get to laugh a little bit, and I think that's just a breath of fresh air in this genre. And I always think like eventually we're going to run out of ideas, and eventually there's just going to be remakes of everything. But people like this come into the filmmaking scene and they change that. And it's not necessarily like this is a one of a kind, there's never been this concept in any movie. I'm sure there's probably a dime a dozen, but it was the way they executed the storyline, the tempo, the like everything involved in it was just so well done. One of the things that I admired the most was the format of it. First of all, it's not in a very wide cinematic aspect ratio. I think it was like 1.2 by 1 aspect ratio, if I'm not mistaken, something like that, or 1.5 by 1 aspect ratio. And it's really square, which usually that can be hit or miss. I typically like movies that like kind of mix aspect ratios, but the whole film was in this one aspect ratio, and it was shot on I think a 35 millimeter ARRI camera, ARRI Alexa maybe, with some I don't know, I can never afford these cameras or lenses, but they emulated film perfectly. I think that was like the best emulation of film I've seen in quite a minute without actually using a film camera. So aspect ratio, beautiful, works so well for this movie. Makes you it helps you not worry about like all this other stuff that's going on the sides and stuff like that. The what's happening is right here, and you're only right here the whole movie. So it helps you focus on the movie, but there is stuff that happens in little background places that in the smaller aspect ratio. Now, the film grain look, oh my gosh, is beautiful. And the lighting in the movie is so intelligent. It's a horror movie, so it's a lot of contrast and a lot of like lower exposure and stuff like that. But man, they lit it so freaking well. And there's gonna be spoilers, so warning, spoilers, right? Um, Concept of the movie: guy likes girl, girl doesn't like guy. He buys something that he can make one wish. It could be anything, but it instantaneously happens as soon as you wish it. So you have to be careful what you wish for. And his wish is that this girl will fall madly in love with him. She'll love him more than she loves anyone else on the entire planet. And that backfires so quick. He drops her off after her and him and her and her friends, like the little friend group, hang out. He drops her off. He immediately, like, she leaves the car after he chickens out and doesn't tell her his feelings, and he instead makes a wish. And the way they portray her in like this, like, it's almost like she's possessed. It's not like really her just being like, oh, I like him now, or I love this guy, right? She's like now like possessed by something. They don't go into detail on that particular part, but it portrays it as a possession. If anything, it's not really her anymore. And they do it so well because every time they show her in this, I will call it like, crazy mode or whatever, sicko mode. There's plenty of light in the scene, plenty to light up a face, to light up the body, all that jazz. But they purposefully cast shadow on her and make her almost look like, just a shadow. There's no detail, no nothing, just darkness. And that's a great portrayal of like this wish, or a great way to represent this wish is that it's not love or something good, it's evil. And you stripped away all her color. And they do it in several scenes where like they're in plenty of light, like, and she's just standing there dark. And man, that is so cool the way they did it. I think it's just so well done. And there's so many little fucked up things that happen that only I feel like a comedy writer could write, because a lot of these scenes, if the music was different and like just the tone was slightly different, but same concept, you could laugh at it. A lot of it, you could laugh at it. But it's all these pieces of the puzzle getting put together that paints the picture. You can say like someone died, but there could be something funny about that if you made it funny, if everything surrounding it was funny, right? But all these concepts were pretty funny, but they painted around it something darker. And I think it was just so clever and so well executed. And I know I sound like a broken record. That's all I'm going to say, is that it's so well executed. I think this is a perfect horror movie. I think it beats Weapons. And Weapons I thought was really well made. But I'm also a whore for film and film looks. So just because it has that film look, a different aspect ratio, I had some hard laughs during this movie. And I just think it ties it all together. So if I'm going to give this movie a score, it is a 10 out of 10. Now, I do think Project Hail Mary is a better movie and a better contender for movie of the year. But for this genre, it is a perfect 10 out of 10. Now, one thing that me and my girlfriend both noticed in the theater, so we're not sure, this is not to toot our horns or whatever, but the audience seemed a little, I don't know if tone deaf is the right word, but I don't know. I think a lot of people went into this movie just wanting to be scared. They didn't really expect it to have those funny moments in it. And we found ourselves being like the only ones in the theater, and it was packed. It was a movie Tuesday or whatever at Cinemark. So if you know, it's like half off movies or some shit. But nobody was laughing during the obviously comical parts. And a lot of people weren't even getting scared at the jump scares. And I don't know if it's just us being stupid or them just like having this like high expectation, like it needs to be scary, only scary. Why is it funny? And them kind of like getting turned off from it. That's a whole nother situation. If you don't enjoy a movie, that sounds like your problem. But if I was going to recommend this to anybody, it'd be everybody. Everybody should go watch this movie if it's still available. If it's not, hopefully it's streaming somewhere. One thing I failed to mention was the audio in the movie. When she gets like in her sicko mode or whatever you want to call it, her evil mode, like they like crank the volume up, and that like partially like gets you scared because it's almost like a jump scare but with audio. But I don't think it was tacky at all. Like it was really well done. It wasn't like, oh, that's a goofy demonic voice, right? It was just like it just got louder and almost like I think you call it like white. No, like the tinnitus effect, like where it's kind of ringing. So like it gets really loud and rings a little bit, and like you're like, that's not even a person anymore. And I think that just is like, oh, that's cool. Like that's really cool. And I don't want to spoil this movie so much, but the funny parts I think are hilarious. And then you immediately go back to, oh fuck, like this is not a comedy. So TLDR, phenomenal movie. I think if you're gonna watch any movie this year, Project Hail Mary, number 1. Number 2 is this movie, Obsession. Go watch it. Leave a comment down below if you agree with me. Leave a comment down below if you disagree with me. Maybe everything I said I loved about the movie and that makes it a 10 out of 10, you fucking hated. And that's okay. It's okay to be wrong. But anyways, that's going to wrap up my movie review. TLDR, go watch it. And, like, comment, subscribe. But most importantly, be safe.